Welcome to The Flow, hosted by Bob Martin, slightly edgy glimpses into politics, culture, society, and being human.
Hey, hello, good people. You know, I've noticed a strange phrase spreading across America. You hear it at stores and banks, coffee counters, everywhere. Right as the transaction ends, the person smiles and says, "Have a nice rest of your day." And every time I hear it, I have the same thought. Yeah, well, what about tomorrow? I mean, is that all I get? The rest of the day? What about tomorrow? What about next week? Have a nice rest of your day. It's oddly specific. It's like our culture has quietly decided that wishing someone well beyond the next few hours might be a little bit too optimistic. So here's the question. When did we start limiting our well wishes to the remaining hours of this current day? I mean, if you're going to wish me well, why stop there? Why not wish me well tomorrow or next week or the rest of my life? It feels like the cultural version of a qualified compliment, kind of like the compliment that you get in trouble when you say to your spouse, "Oh, honey, you look beautiful tonight." And she says, "What do you mean tonight? What about yesterday or tomorrow?" Yeah, you just created a compliment with a expiration date. And that, that's what have a nice rest of your day feels like. It's perfectly polite, but strangely limited. So I've started responding differently. When everyone says, have a nice rest of your day, I'm going to say, hey, look, I'll do you one better. Have a nice, great rest of your life. And why not can't we? Can't we just offer that? Sometimes people laugh when I say it, and sometimes they look confused, but I mean it. If we're handing out good wishes, why not go big? But, after joking about it for a while, I started wondering if the phrase might actually reveal something deeper. Because, cultural habits usually come from somewhere. And lately, the world feels, well, it just feels unstable. Every news cycle is a new crisis. There are economic shocks, political chaos, technological disruption. It feels like the ground is constantly shifting under our feet. So maybe the phrase reflects something real. Maybe we've quietly lowered our expectations. Not have a great year or even have a great tomorrow. Just have a nice rest of today. We'll worry about tomorrow when we get there. There's actually a philosophy like this in recovery programs. When life feels overwhelming, in the 12-step rooms, the advice is always simple. Hey, man, just take it one day at a time. And sometimes that's even too much. So take it an hour at a time, or maybe even a minute at a time. Just get through the moment. Then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And maybe that's what our culture is doing. Maybe have a nice rest of your day is the linguistic version of emotional survival. Back in the 70s, a writer named Alvin Toffler wrote a famous book called Future Shock. And his idea was that the real problem wasn't just change, because human beings have always changed, and generations have always talked about the new generation. And so the problem really isn't change. It was the speed of change. What Toffler said was that change is happening faster. We're starting to move faster. And it's faster than we can psychologically process. Now, Toffler wrote that 50 years ago. I wonder what he'd say today. But I tell you what, I'm still going to rebel against it a little, because if someone wishes me a nice rest of my day, I'm going to go say, I'll do you one better. Have a great rest of your life. And why not? If we're going to wish each other well, let's not ration it. Let's go big. And remember, hey man, in order to go with the flow, you first have to understand the flow. Be well and be happy.